One of the things I actually, when I see you guys individually, have said, and I think there's two, not to complicate the scenario here, I think there's two groups of patients. And I know that you all probably have had these experiences. Sometimes I think they say the thrill is in the kill. Really, it becomes a challenge when you have this desire and you're constantly fighting it off. So I do tell the patients, and I'm sure you guys, some of you have heard me telling you this, that as long as you can get the control to taste the bite and say, I'm done, it's fine. But there are some of you who say that, look, I know myself, that if I do that one, it will lead the doorway to the second one and the pack.
The highway to
So,
hell.
and I think it's very valid for those of you who have those concerns to say, look, I just avoid the whole thing and I go after something else. But I also want to, maybe encourage is the wrong word, but I also want to kind of tell you it's okay if you want to try it. A lot of you may find that when you do, actually, you see what this fuss was all about. And, you know, I can't tell the number of patients who say soda and they taste it like tar, or it tastes all kind of various descriptions of it. So try it one time. If it starts to become a challenge and you start to go after it again and again, then I think Dr. Gat's point is a valid one. Leave it and don't go after it and just take it away from the house and da-da-da. But if you feel that you have that comfort zone, that every now and then you can, because the difference between before surgery and now is that your palate really does change. So those desire signals are not as strong maybe after you have that one bite. And you may not habitually go after it. But if you do, I think absolutely right. Ignore it, as in don't have it and avoid it. But if you can handle it, I think it's okay. I mean, it's like that little sip of wine for Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving. But if you start to think, okay, this is yummy and I'm getting a buzz and I'm going to have it every Saturday and then every Wednesday on a poker night, and then, you know, so you really got to be very honest to yourselves and with yourselves. And if you know yourselves, then that's it. I think that's it.
And one to dovetail that, to read it, I asked you guys, what is your relationship to food? I think it's an important question to ask yourself. Food is not your enemy. And if we start thinking about food as this is something that is nourishing me, it's for my health, it's good, and sometimes it's a treat. And I can enjoy it, and maybe the nutritional value isn't what I need, but if I can have a piece, yummy. And the message you give yourself, I choose not to have this because I care enough about myself and my health, and I like myself enough. It's not, I can't, oh my God, you know.
I went through that for a while.
I'm bad.
It wasn't that I was
Beat
beating, it wasn't
yourself up.
that I was beating myself, oh, you're bad, you can't have it. It was actually, you know, you talk about the relationship, it was fear, the fear of getting out of control.
Right.
Because that's my trigger.
Right.
Don't forget, your bodies are not static machines. I mean, they're very dynamic. I mean, I can tell you, if for women who are mid-cycle, or if you had a day where your salt consumption was higher, or you had been in bed for a day because you didn't feel well, all of these things, for instance, 3 examples I just give you, make you retain fluid, okay? So where does that fluid go? It goes everywhere in the body. It's not just in your feet and your ankles. It goes into the lungs, it goes into the guts. And so as these areas swell, of course, it affects the capacity, it affects the whole signal mechanism. So it's not unusual for one day the same food that you had 5 days prior give you a different sense. And of course, there are so many factors. Is the speed of consumption, whether you had eaten something prior it, or whether you're going to have something after it. So bear those in mind. And in fact, one of the things I wanted to tell you guys, a lot of you become very health conscious, of course, after, and tend to resort to fresh fruits, which is great. But I also want to remind you, fresh fruits have a lot of sugar, and it's important, especially as we get further away from surgery, to have still checkpoints along the way. And I've really started to hammer this in clinic. Every week, have one rolling day that you measure your calorific intake. And you can start from Monday, week 1, and then week 2, do it on a Tuesday, week 3, do it on a Wednesday. So you have a sense of really how well you're keeping that 12 to 1400 calorific range. If you're consistently below, you have to really help yourself to some additional calorific intake. Okay, because it's important. Okay, so if you are 1600, 1700, the same. You have to find out what it is that you need to trim down. And a lot of patients kind of do it for a year very meticulously, and they get a sense and they feel that, okay, that's it, and they don't pursue it beyond that first year. You don't have to do it daily, but really once a week have a sense where you are and maintain those important facts about your hierarchy as you eat a meal. Protein component first, the vegetables and other things second, and the carbs last. And you can't be perfect all the time. No one expects any one of us to be like that, but you kind of want to think things through. You're on a conference somewhere and there's, not your routine, and think through as to what you can do. I mean, I, for instance, always give patients the idea of you're out and about on the road. There's really nothing around except these fast food stores, and you go to one of them, and let's say Subway. So, you want to think the proportions have to be the way that you've learned them. So you tell the guy, I want you to take the dough out of the lower shelf of the bread. Instead of 4 slices of turkey, give me 6 or 8 slices of turkey. And on the top surface, I just want the lettuce leaf or a tomato rather than a second deck of bread. So your proportions then are more protein first, vegetables, and carbs. So you kind of get close as you can to those models. And really, with a life as hectic as it is, you're going to have to be out of the box and always think these things through. And it gets easier and easier. And I think, really, at least for me who see you guys in clinic, those of you who manage to do some of these things more often tend to fare better with your weight long term than those of you who kind of guesstimate it.
Guesstimating will get you in trouble because
it does get you in trouble.
Guesstimating. One of the things I have found in going and visiting with patients and stuff and talking to patients after surgery, especially for you guys that are new or just coming up, they're so afraid of food. Absolutely petrified. I'm not speaking directly to you, but they're absolutely petrified. They're absolutely petrified to even eat after surgery. And the thing is like I tell everybody, you need to eat because it's not about eating bad. It's about learning to re-eat and learning how to eat to nourish yourself. Like Irit said, to nourish your body, not to, it's not about going overboard. I think it's, especially, the first, month, they're just a little bit afraid to eat, even though that you know what you need to eat. Are there still times for you guys who are far out? I know you said that there are times you eat, and you're like,
The other day, I was in a grocery store. So when I was buying honestly, I'm not a Nutella eater. It happened that I got one bottle because the kids had asked for lunch, and I just was looking at it. 1 tablespoon of Nutella. It said it's 200 calories. I had no idea. It really, I mean,
It tastes
so
great.
happens that then a couple of weeks later, I was in another store. It was a French like bakery, and they had Nutellas, but it was like half the calorie, 50% less, and it was like a spoonful of 100. So these things you got to kind of check out. And, I mean, it's unbelievable, unbelievable.
You have
How
to be an
much
informed
sugar and
consumer.
stuff. I probably go, I don't know, 3-4 times a year when I go for a meeting or something. And last time I went was about a month or two ago, and they had started putting calories in their menu. So, well, but it was very interesting because, you know, you really don't think it through. So
They should make decisions.
and I'm a big fish person, so, you know, I always think fish is healthy, and it is, but except it depends how you prepare it. That makes it lethal.
Everything's healthy
So,
depending on how you prepare
I know, and I can tell you, there must be at least 100 items on this menu, from the appetizers through the salads through the main courses. And I struggled for 20 minutes to find something that was in the region of 400 to 500 calories. Literally every
Flatbread with the green salad works every time.
Right, but I can tell you, every single meal was typically around 14 to 1600 calories. One meal. Now, I mean, if you're eating 3 meals a day, right, you can see how easy you can accumulate 4,000 or 5,000 calories. I mean, it's unbelievable. And of course, you read and you see it's the sauces or the way it's prepared. So the one I think I ended up having was fish that was like more baked or steamed on a bit of steamed vegetables. I mean, it took a while for me to adjust to the taste of it because, you know, I'm also a huge carb fan. And I really struggled, but I really, my entire thought that dinner was with my patients, thinking this is really hard.
And you can be assertive and ask places to modify.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
You can tell them how you want them to fix things. I don't want the sauce on it. I don't want.
Absolutely.
With those of you who've had sleeve gastrectomies, are you guys finding starchy foods a bit tricky?
How?
How many find it yes, as in food gets stuck? And do you find that that's helpful? The thing to do is to make sure you regularly in the first year, and then once a year after the first year, have your vitamin levels checked. Don't assume that you're taking and everything is okay. Most likely it will be. But once a year, have it checked either through your primary or through the office, just so you know where you are with your levels. Especially, there's a couple of vitamins that often patients go deficient on. One is B1, the other one is D.
Thiamine.
Those two, you got to make sure that you really are on top. And you know, osteoporosis is a little higher incidence after a particular bypass, so it's important, especially for postmenopausal patients, to get bone density studies. But yeah, there can be situations where you may have to have a medication given to you intravenously because you won't absorb it otherwise adequately. And this is particularly the case with iron. Some women, after weight loss surgery, 10-15%, suffer with iron deficiency. And no matter how much iron you take orally, you still don't seem to absorb it. And you're going to have to then go for the infusion route. And so, you know, 10 years ago, that was really very early in its understanding. Now we know that the data is pretty consistent, and every 10-15% need that. And so things are evolving, but most of these things are now pretty well recognized.
We saw you in the color run, your dance.
Oh, you know
we
what?
want to see a recap.